The morning sunlight spilled softly across the quiet suburban street, casting a warm glow over everything it touched. The leaves shimmered with a delicate golden hue, and the faint scent of dew mixed with freshly cut grass drifted through the air. It was the kind of morning that felt slow, gentle, and almost alive, a perfect backdrop for simple, unnoticed moments. On the porch of a modest house, a young man sat with a steaming mug of coffee in his hands. Medium build, short dark brown hair, soft neutral clothing, he leaned back in his chair, letting the warmth seep into his palms, letting the quiet sink in. The world seemed paused, waiting for something, but he didn't know what. Then, movement. A small puppy, golden fur shining in the soft morning light, trotted into view. His ears perked, tail wagging with restrained excitement. He sniffed the ground, paused for a heartbeat, then darted forward again. There was no clumsiness in his steps, only purpose, intention, a quiet, steady energy that made the man straighten in his chair. "Where are you off to this time, little guy?" he whispered, voice soft, almost a murmur. The puppy glanced back, eyes wide and bright, full of a message that seemed unspoken but deeply clear. Then he ran again, paws moving in small, deliberate bursts, ears twitching at every sound, nose guiding him toward something unknown. This had become routine. Every morning, like clockwork, the puppy would leave, explore, then return with a quiet satisfaction that the man couldn't quite explain. It wasn't play, it wasn't mischief. It was intuition. He watched, curious, heart quietly tugging. Each step the puppy took seemed weighted with meaning, like every movement mattered more than it should. And yet, there was no fear in the puppy's journey. No urgency. Just calm, focused determination that pulled at the man's curiosity and his heart. As the puppy disappeared behind the fence for the third time this week, the man leaned forward, elbows on his knees, tracing the tiny paw prints left behind in the damp morning soil. His mind wandered. What could drive such intent in something so small? What did the puppy know that he didn't? The air around him seemed to hold its breath. Dust motes floated lazily in the sunlight, glinting like tiny stars. The scent of wet grass and the faint warmth of morning sun wrapped the porch in a gentle embrace. He could almost feel the rhythm of the puppy's little heart in the quiet, and it made something inside him stir. When the puppy returned, panting lightly, he nudged the man's hand, tail wagging slowly, but his eyes were alive with a secret. A truth that had not yet been shared, but that pulled at the edges of the man's awareness. The man chuckled softly, a sound that mingled with the warm morning. "You've got me curious again," he said, letting the words drift into the sun-soaked silence. The puppy looked up at him, ears flicking, gaze steady. There was trust there, and more than trust. Connection. Understanding. Intuition that only the two of them seemed capable of sensing together. He took another sip of coffee, letting the warmth fill the quiet spaces around him. Something told him that this small creature, full of golden fur and quiet wisdom, carried a story beyond the ordinary, one that would unfold slowly, gently, in its own perfect time. And even as he watched, he could feel the subtle pull of anticipation, of a secret waiting just beyond the morning light. It was more than curiosity now. It was wonder. And in that moment, the man realized, some mysteries are too beautiful to rush. Some truths are meant to reveal themselves quietly. The puppy settled beside his feet, head resting lightly on his toes, tail brushing the floor. The man leaned back, letting the gentle morning stretch over them both. Light and warmth wrapped the porch, the world paused in perfect calm. And in that stillness, he understood something important. The puppy's daily journeys, the quiet determination, the soft glances and nudges, they had meaning. He just didn't know what that meaning was yet. The morning after the first curious day, the sun rose even softer, casting a golden haze over the quiet street. Shadows stretched lazily across lawns, and the faint hum of life began to stir, leaves rustling, distant birds singing, and the occasional whisper of wind through the trees. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting. On the porch, the man sipped his coffee, noticing a subtle shift in the puppy's behavior. Today, the little dog didn't immediately run down the driveway. Instead, He circled the porch slowly, nose twitching, ears flicking at sounds that went unnoticed by human ears. Every movement was deliberate, attentive, thoughtful. The man watched, fascinated. There was something in the way the puppy paused, tilted his head, sniffed the air as if listening to a message only he could hear. And then, after a careful moment, the puppy sprinted forward, tail held high, eyes bright, yet with the same unmistakable sense of purpose as the day before. It wasn't random play. It wasn't mere curiosity. It was intuition. The man rose from his chair, coffee forgotten, and followed at a measured distance. Each step the puppy took seemed calculated, precise. He stopped briefly under a flowering bush, sniffed the ground with quiet intensity, and then moved again, dragging the man along in the rhythm of his small, determined pace. For a moment, the man considered calling him back, but the puppy's gaze met his once, steady and knowing. He understood without words, just watch. Trust me. There was a lesson in that glance, patience. Quiet observation. The world had its secrets, and only those willing to notice would see them. The man slowed his pace, matching the puppy's rhythm. Dust motes floated in the soft sunlight, catching on the puppy's golden fur. Every twitch of his ears, every pause and sniff, was like a language waiting to be understood. And with each step, the man felt his curiosity deepen, but also something more tender, an emotional tether forming between them. At a small clearing near the edge of the street, the puppy paused and sat. His gaze was fixed on a small patch of earth. The man leaned closer, heart quietly racing, not with fear, but with wonder. The puppy pawed lightly at the ground, nose lowered, then lifted his eyes to the man. There was anticipation there, promise. "What do you see, buddy?" the man murmured, voice soft, barely more than a whisper. The puppy wagged his tail slowly, his body calm yet alert. And then, almost imperceptibly, he nudged the man's hand with his nose, encouraging him forward. It was gentle, insistent, an invitation to witness something only he seemed to sense. As they lingered together in the golden morning, the man realized just how extraordinary this small creature was. It wasn't just obedience. It wasn't training. It was a natural, almost spiritual kind of intuition, an awareness that transcended ordinary understanding. He watched the puppy's ears twitch as he sniffed a faint scent on the ground, and he thought, there is a depth here, a wisdom in such small bodies that humans often overlook. And somehow, he felt privileged to witness it. Time slowed. The morning light wrapped them in warmth. The faint sound of distant birds became a soft soundtrack to this quiet revelation. Every paw step, every tilt of the head, was a reminder that life held gentle mysteries, ones that required observation, patience, and an open heart. The puppy stood finally, tail sweeping slowly back and forth, then darted a few steps forward, stopping abruptly as though sensing a subtle shift in the air. The man followed, heart lifting and tightening simultaneously. There was meaning here. He could feel it, though the specifics remained hidden. And in that shared silence, in the slow, deliberate movements of his small companion, the man felt an emotional tether deepen. It was more than affection. It was trust, understanding, a bond forged in observation, patience, and shared quiet moments. He knelt beside the puppy at last, brushing a hand lightly over his fur. The little dog leaned into the touch, eyes glimmering with quiet satisfaction. They shared a heartbeat of silence, the world stretching around them. The man realized that he had begun to see the world through the puppy's lens, noticing the subtle cues that had always gone unnoticed. And in that moment, he understood something profound. The puppy's journeys, his pauses, his delicate intuition, they weren't just small actions. They were invitations to feel, to notice, to connect. The sun climbed higher, painting their surroundings in golden amber. The puppy rested his head gently on the man's knee, tail brushing softly along the grass. He had led, and the man had followed, but in the quiet, shared rhythm of those movements, both had learned. Some mysteries don't need words. Some truths are discovered slowly, step by step, paw by paw. And even as they lingered there, the man knew the quiet pull of the puppy's next journey was already coming. The gentle intuition of the puppy was far from finished. The morning air was cooler now, carrying the faint scent of earth and dew from overnight rain. Sunlight streamed softly between the branches, leaving warm patches across the driveway and porch. The quiet seemed to hum around them, alive with small, unnoticed rhythms, the gentle rustle of leaves, the faint call of a bird, the soft scuff of paws on pavement. The man stood at the porch, coffee cup now cool in his hands, watching the puppy. Today, the little dog didn't dash immediately for the street. Instead, he lingered, tail sweeping slowly, ears alert, nose twitching as if scanning invisible signals. Each small movement held intention, a quiet awareness that pulled at the man's curiosity in a way he couldn't ignore. He took a step forward, then another, keeping his distance. He had begun to notice patterns, the pauses, the careful sniffing, the deliberate pacing. Every movement seemed meaningful, purposeful. The puppy wasn't just wandering. He was searching. The man's curiosity deepened. He started following him, quietly, careful not to intrude. Each step the puppy took seemed calculated, almost ritualistic. He would pause under a tree, circle a small patch of grass, glance back with bright, expectant eyes. It was as though he were leading not just with his legs, but with some deeper sense of direction, some inner knowing that the man could almost feel, but not yet understand. "Where are you taking me today?" the man whispered, his voice low, calm. The puppy only wagged his tail slowly, ears flicking, urging him onward. The man began noticing subtleties he had never observed before, the way the sunlight glinted off dew-laden leaves, the way shadows shifted across the pavement, the faint sound of movement under the grass. The world felt alive in a way it hadn't before, because he was seeing it through the puppy's eyes, attentive, present, patient. They walked together, a quiet rhythm forming between them. The puppy sniffed, paused, glanced back, and the man followed, each step strengthening a connection that had started with curiosity but was blossoming into something deeper. He realized he wasn't just observing the puppy, he was learning from him. The little dog stopped at a small patch of earth near the sidewalk. He sat, nose twitching, eyes focused. The man crouched down slowly, noticing the puppy's deliberate stillness. There was anticipation in the air, a soft tension that wasn't frightening, just meaningful. Something was here, something important, and the puppy wanted him to notice. The man studied him closely. He watched the gentle rise and fall of his small chest, the way his ears tilted at tiny, almost imperceptible sounds, the way his eyes glimmered with quiet intelligence. Every detail seemed to matter. Every moment was an invitation to pay attention, to wonder. He found himself following the puppy not out of obligation, but out of fascination. Each day, each small journey, deepened his awareness not only of the puppy, but of life itself. Ordinary streets became places of discovery. Simple walks became exercises in presence, patience, and understanding. The puppy nudged his hand lightly with his nose. It was a soft, insistent gesture, gentle enough to avoid startling, but clear in its intent. The man smiled, letting his hand rest on the puppy's golden fur. There was warmth here, a tether forming between them that went beyond affection. This was trust. Shared curiosity. Connection. He began noticing how the puppy responded to subtle cues, the faintest rustle of leaves, the whisper of wind, the soft hum of distant traffic. The man realized that the little dog was aware of things he had never considered, attuned to rhythms and patterns invisible to human eyes. A thought struck him, quiet and slow. Perhaps this was the real magic of the puppy, not in what he did, but in how he made him notice. How he made the man see, listen, and feel more deeply. The puppy lifted his head, ears perking as if sensing something far away. He took a few careful steps forward, then paused, looking back at the man with wide, expectant eyes. The silent message was clear: keep following. There is more to see. The man felt a swell of emotion, warmth, curiosity, and a sense of wonder all at once. He realized that this journey wasn't about chasing answers. It was about sharing presence. About noticing the small miracles that fill each day, if only one pays attention. The golden light wrapped them in a gentle glow, dust motes drifting lazily in the air like tiny stars. Each movement the puppy made seemed to punctuate the rhythm of the morning, guiding the man along a path that felt both familiar and mysteriously new. He took a deep breath, letting the scent of wet grass, warm earth, and sunlit air fill him. He realized that he had begun to trust the puppy in a new way, not just as a companion, but as a guide. And as the puppy paused again, looking toward a small corner of the yard he had never noticed before, the man leaned closer, heart quietly tightening with anticipation. What was waiting there? What secret had the puppy been trying to reveal all along? The gentle pull of curiosity settled over him, soft, persistent, irresistible. The puppy's intuition had become more than just an action, it had become a bridge between them. And the man knew, even without understanding, that this quiet journey was far from over. The sun had risen higher now, spilling a soft golden warmth across the quiet suburban street. Light caught the edges of leaves, the dew lingering on the grass, and the faint shimmer of dust in the air. It was a morning that seemed made for noticing the small things, for feeling the subtle rhythms of life. The man leaned against the porch railing, coffee long forgotten, watching the puppy as he moved with quiet purpose. Today, the little dog didn't rush anywhere. He trotted with calm precision, pausing here, sniffing there, his ears alert, his eyes sharp. Every movement seemed intentional, deliberate. Each step was like a note in a melody the man was just beginning to hear. He took a slow step down the porch, instinctively following, letting the puppy guide him. There was a rhythm here, a gentle flow of trust and intuition that had grown stronger over the past few days. He realized he wasn't simply observing anymore, he was participating, becoming part of the shared, quiet journey. The puppy paused at the edge of a small garden, nose close to the ground. He sniffed delicately, then lifted his head, eyes meeting the man's. There was a soft insistence in that gaze, a wordless request, look closer. Notice what I notice. The man crouched slowly, letting the puppy's calm energy wash over him. His hand hovered above the golden fur, hesitant at first, then brushing gently along the back. The little dog leaned into the touch, eyes half closed in quiet contentment. In that moment, the bond between them deepened, a subtle thread of understanding weaving silently and firmly. Every pause, every gentle nudge, every quiet glance seemed to carry meaning. The man noticed how the puppy would occasionally sniff at certain spots, tilt his head toward subtle sounds, or hesitate for just a fraction of a second, tiny signals that revealed a depth of awareness far beyond ordinary observation. The man's heart swelled with a gentle, almost aching tenderness. He realized how much he had begun to depend on these small cues, not for guidance, necessarily, but for connection. The puppy had become more than a pet, more than a companion. He had become a teacher, a guide into noticing, into feeling, into being present. As they moved slowly through the yard, the puppy paused near a small patch of sunlight. He lay down, ears twitching at distant noises, eyes alert yet calm. The man knelt beside him, letting the warmth of the sun wash over both of them. He could feel the rhythm of the puppy's breathing, the quiet steadiness of his body, the patience that seemed woven into every gesture. "Good boy," he whispered softly, more to himself than to the dog. "You're teaching me something important, aren't you?" The puppy responded with a gentle nudge of his nose, brushing against the man's hand. There was no urgency, no demand, just a quiet, shared understanding. The bond that had been forming since the first curious morning was now unmistakable. The man took a slow breath, noticing the warmth of the sunlight on his skin, the subtle rustle of leaves in the breeze, and the soft, steady presence of his small companion. Every detail seemed magnified, more vivid, more alive. He realized how much he had missed by moving too quickly through life, by not pausing to notice the little things. And yet, here, in the quiet rhythm of morning, guided by the puppy's gentle intuition, he was learning. Learning to slow down. Learning to trust. Learning to see the world through a lens of quiet attention, subtle awareness, and heartfelt presence. The puppy rose slowly, tail sweeping in a calm, deliberate motion, then trotted a few steps forward, pausing as if to invite the man to follow. He did, heart quietly racing, not with fear or urgency, but with the anticipation of shared discovery. The man noticed how the puppy's eyes seemed to shine with a kind of knowing. It was not human knowledge, but something pure, instinctive, perceptive, quietly wise. And in that gaze, he felt a profound connection, one that transcended words or explanation. Every day, every journey, every small pause deepened this bond. The man found himself listening more carefully, observing more fully, and feeling more deeply. He was beginning to understand the language of his companion, the subtle nudges, the pauses, the quiet insistence of intuition. As they lingered together in the soft golden light, the man realized that these moments, small and quiet as they seemed, carried an immense weight of love, trust, and understanding. The bond between human and dog had grown beyond companionship. It was a shared heartbeat, a quiet awareness, a connection that spoke louder than any words could. The puppy glanced back once, eyes bright and expectant, and wagged his tail slowly. The man smiled, brushing a hand gently along his back. He knew, without fully understanding, that this connection was only the beginning. The morning had a crisp clarity, sunlight spilling softly over the neighborhood, touching everything with a golden glow. Shadows stretched lazily, and the faint rustle of leaves filled the air with gentle music. The world felt quiet, almost expectant, as if it, too, knew something important was about to unfold. The man stepped out onto the porch, coffee cup in hand, and saw the puppy already moving with quiet purpose. Today, the little dog's movements carried an extra focus, an intensity tempered by calm. He paused at intervals, sniffing, tilting his head, and gazing at the man as if silently asking, "Are you ready to follow me today?" The man set down his cup, heart quickening with anticipation. He had followed before, watched, observed, and felt the bond deepen, but today seemed different. The puppy's eyes held a spark of intent that made him sit up straighter. Without hesitation, the puppy trotted down the driveway, pausing near a familiar patch of grass. The man followed, careful to match his pace, feeling the soft tug of curiosity and emotion. Every step the puppy took seemed guided by some unseen force, a quiet intelligence that pulled the man along in rhythm with him. They reached a small alley behind a row of houses, a place the man had passed countless times without noticing. The puppy paused, sniffing the ground with deliberate care. Then, with a gentle nudge of his nose, he beckoned the man to move closer. The man crouched down, heart stirring. The puppy pawed lightly at the earth, nose close to a small object partially hidden by fallen leaves. Carefully, the man leaned forward and picked it up. It was a tiny, weathered notebook, edges frayed, pages slightly damp. The man's fingers traced the cover, his curiosity mingling with a quiet sense of wonder. The puppy wagged his tail slowly, as if affirming, "See? I told you it mattered." He opened the notebook gently, discovering that the pages were filled with short, handwritten notes. The words were simple but heartfelt, memories, observations, and small reflections left by someone long ago. The man could feel the emotion behind every sentence, the quiet care in every word. The puppy sat beside him, eyes alert, glancing up as if to gauge his reaction. The man looked down at him, realizing something profound. The little dog had led him here not by chance, but by instinct, intuition, and perhaps a deep, unspoken understanding that this place held significance. He flipped through the notebook slowly, savoring each word, feeling the warmth and tenderness of the unknown author's memories. There was no urgency, no rush, just a quiet unfolding of connection. And through it all, the puppy remained calm and focused, a patient guide in this soft revelation. The sun shifted, casting long golden rays across the alley, highlighting the puppy's fur and the notebook in the man's hands. Dust motes danced in the light, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended in quiet reverence. Every detail, the warmth of sunlight, the subtle breeze, the puppy's calm presence, felt imbued with meaning. The man felt a swell of emotion rising in his chest, a mixture of awe, gratitude, and quiet joy. The puppy had not merely brought him here, he had connected him to something larger than himself, something tender, meaningful, and invisible until now. He gently closed the notebook, placing it in his coat pocket. The puppy nudged his hand, tail brushing lightly against his leg. The gesture was soft but insistent. "We're not done yet. There's more to notice, more to feel." The man smiled, brushing a hand over the puppy's golden fur. He realized, fully, that this little creature was not only a companion but a messenger and intuitive guide, capable of leading him to hidden truths, quiet wonders, and moments of emotional clarity. As they walked back toward the porch, the man felt a gentle anticipation stirring within him. He didn't yet know the full meaning of this discovery, but the feeling in his chest told him that it was significant, personal, tender, and unforgettable. The puppy trotted ahead, pausing occasionally to glance back, eyes full of understanding and trust. The man followed, heart quietly pounding, aware that he was witnessing something extraordinary not just in the object he carried, but in the connection that had brought him here. The world felt warmer now, infused with the quiet magic of subtle revelation. Every leaf, every ray of light, every soft sound in the alley seemed to hum with significance. And the man understood, with a gentle certainty, that the puppy's intuition had guided him to the first of many beautiful truths. They reached the porch, the golden light wrapping around them. The puppy settled at the man's feet, head resting gently on his toes, tail sweeping softly across the floor. The man leaned back, holding the notebook close, heart full, yet tinged with anticipation. The morning had a quiet clarity, sunlight spilling gently through the trees, warming the street in soft golden beams. The air carried the faint scent of earth and dew, and somewhere distant, a bird called a single, clear note in the calm of the neighborhood. The man held the small, weathered notebook carefully, turning it over in his hands. Its pages had offered a glimpse into someone's quiet reflections, tender memories, and forgotten moments. But now, he felt a new layer of emotion rising, a subtle ache of realization. Something about this notebook, and the puppy's insistence, had led him to something deeper than he had expected. The puppy, golden fur glinting in the sunlight, sat nearby, ears alert, tail sweeping slowly. His gaze was fixed on the man, calm, patient, as if waiting for him to notice what had been there all along. The man knelt on the porch, opening the notebook again. This time, he read not just the words, but the spaces between them, the pauses, the small notations, the lines that hinted at love, longing, and connection. Each page seemed infused with quiet emotion, each word a whisper from someone who had left pieces of their heart here. He felt a lump in his throat, a soft tightening in his chest. The puppy nudged his hand lightly, eyes full of understanding, tail brushing gently against his leg. It was as if the little dog sensed the man's swelling emotions and wanted to be there not just as a companion, but as a bridge to comprehension, to comfort, to presence. The man looked at him and whispered softly, You knew this would matter, didn't you?" The puppy responded with a small, eager bark, head tilting slightly, ears flicking. It was a quiet affirmation, a gentle answer to a question that had no words. For a moment, the world seemed suspended in stillness. The golden sunlight, the rustle of leaves, the distant chirping of birds, all of it became a soft symphony for a heart learning to feel more deeply. He realized that this moment, these discoveries, were more than coincidence. They were guided, intentional, and full of meaning. The man took a slow breath, letting it settle in his chest. He thought about how easily life passes unnoticed, how many small mysteries go unseen, how many moments of wonder slip through our fingers. And here, through the puppy's quiet intuition, he was experiencing something rare, a connection that bridged past and present, memory and awareness, heart and instinct. He opened the notebook to a marked page, one that had a small, delicate sketch in the corner, a scene of a dog sitting in the sun, gazing at something unseen. The man's heart thudded softly. His fingers traced the lines, the simplicity and tenderness of the drawing stirring something deep inside. It was then he realized the truth. The puppy's daily journeys, the persistent nudges, the insistence on being followed had been leading him not just to objects, but to understanding, to emotion, to a story he was only beginning to grasp. He looked down at the puppy, eyes glistening, and spoke softly, almost in awe, "You've been showing me how to notice, how to feel, how to connect." The puppy wagged his tail slowly, then leaned against his hand, a small gesture of trust and confirmation. For the first time, the man saw the puppy not just as a companion, but as a teacher, one whose lessons were quiet, subtle, and profoundly moving. Each day of observation, each moment of shared silence, had been preparation for this understanding. A soft breeze drifted through the yard, carrying the scent of warm earth and faint flowers. The man closed the notebook gently, pressing it against his chest. He felt gratitude, tenderness, and a new sense of awareness. The puppy's intuition had illuminated something he could not have found on his own, a path to emotional clarity and connection. The little dog sat up, ears flicking, tail brushing lightly against the man's leg. His gaze was steady, filled with quiet satisfaction. He had guided him here, through subtle hints, small gestures, and patient observation. And now, the man understood, this was a turning point. This was more than a discovery. It was a shared journey, a lesson in presence, patience, and love. The puppy had led him to the heart of a story that belonged to both of them, a revelation that intertwined instinct and understanding, loyalty and emotional intuition. The man exhaled slowly, feeling warmth spread through his chest. He brushed a hand lightly along the puppy's back, and for the first time, he felt a deep, unspoken bond settle fully into place, a tether forged through shared mystery, gentle guidance, and mutual care. As sunlight wrapped around them both, the man realized something profound. The puppy's purpose had never been about wandering or play. It had been about connection, about revealing hidden truths, about guiding him to a moment of quiet emotional awakening. The golden light bathed the yard, highlighting the small, steady presence of the puppy. The man felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes, not sorrow, but wonder, gratitude, and a gentle sense of fulfillment. The quiet intuition of the puppy had led to a turning point that would forever change the man's understanding of love, trust, and connection. And as the puppy nudged his hand once more, the man knew this journey, their bond, and the truths yet to unfold, were only beginning. The sun was soft now, low in the sky, bathing the neighborhood in a warm, amber glow. Shadows stretched lazily across lawns, and the gentle hum of the evening wind carried a sense of calm. Everything seemed to pause, waiting for the next quiet revelation. The man held the small, weathered notebook against his chest, eyes tracing the delicate handwriting and sketches once more. Each page had whispered stories of memory, care, and connection, but now, the meaning was beginning to bloom fully in his mind. The puppy sat beside him, golden fur glinting in the light, ears alert, eyes calm but knowing. It all came together suddenly, softly, like sunlight breaking through clouds. The notebook had belonged to someone who had loved deeply, quietly observing the world, capturing small moments and memories. And the puppy, the little golden guide, had sensed the emotional significance buried within each page. Every morning, every journey, every pause and nudge had been a path leading the man to this realization. The man knelt beside the puppy, gently brushing a hand over his back. You knew all along, didn't you?" he whispered, voice low and trembling slightly. The puppy tilted his head, tail sweeping slowly, eyes reflecting something almost human in their depth, trust, awareness, and understanding. Tears pricked at the corners of the man's eyes. He opened the notebook to the final pages and read aloud softly, voice breaking in quiet emotion. The words spoke of love lost, moments cherished, the small joys of companionship, and the unspoken bond between humans and their dogs. He realized that the puppy's daily routine, the runs, the pauses, the careful sniffing, it had all been leading him here, to the heart of a story about connection, loyalty, and intuitive guidance. The puppy nudged his hand again, pressing gently against him, as if acknowledging the man's understanding. In that moment, the man felt an overwhelming surge of gratitude, not just for the discovery, but for the companionship, the guidance, and the quiet teaching that had led him here. He looked down at the puppy, eyes glistening, and whispered, "I understand now. You weren't just leading me to a notebook. You were showing me how to feel, how to notice, how to connect." The puppy responded with a small, soft bark, tail wagging slowly. It was a simple gesture, yet it carried the weight of unspoken affirmation. They had traveled this journey together, human and dog, bound by subtle cues, trust, and intuition. The man leaned back, letting the warmth of the late afternoon sun wash over them both. He felt a deep, quiet peace settle in his chest, a feeling that had been building over days of observation and gentle guidance. He realized that the puppy's actions had revealed more than a hidden story, they had revealed a path to empathy, awareness, and emotional presence. He carefully placed the notebook beside him, allowing the puppy to nuzzle against it. There was no need to rush, no need to speak further. The bond they shared, strengthened by curiosity, patience, and gentle revelation, was enough. The man took a slow breath, noticing the soft sway of the leaves, the golden glow reflecting in the puppy's eyes, the subtle rhythm of his breathing. Each detail, each sound, each gesture carried significance now. Life felt richer, fuller, imbued with meaning that had been hidden in plain sight until now. A sense of awe settled over him, a quiet recognition of the delicate ways in which life teaches and connects. And in the puppy's calm, steady presence, he understood something profound. Love, trust, and intuition are often expressed in the smallest, quietest ways, waiting for those willing to notice. The puppy rested his head lightly on the man's knee, tail brushing softly against the ground. The man stroked his fur, feeling warmth radiate through his chest. For the first time, he allowed himself to fully embrace the emotional truth revealed to him. The puppy had been guiding him, teaching him, connecting him to memory, to awareness, and to the heart of another life. The golden light softened further, casting long, tender shadows. The man smiled through tears, whispering softly, "Thank you, for everything." The puppy responded with a gentle nuzzle, eyes bright and steady, full of trust and quiet satisfaction. In that moment, the man realized that the journey was not just about discovery, it was about connection. Every morning run, every pause, every nudge had led to this revelation, the beauty of emotional intuition, the power of quiet guidance, and the heart-touching truth that love often communicates without words. The notebook, the puppy, the quiet suburban street, they had all conspired, gently, to bring him here. And in this warm, amberlit evening, the man understood fully, the puppy's daily ritual was never random. It had been a journey of heart, of trust, and of revelation. The puppy's actions had revealed a truth more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. And as the man held him close, the golden light wrapping around them both, he knew that this moment, this bond, and this understanding would stay with him forever. The sun had begun its slow descent, casting a gentle, golden-pink glow across the quiet neighborhood. Shadows softened, and the air carried the faint scent of late-afternoon flowers and warm earth. Everything felt calm, tender, and full of possibility. The man sat on the porch steps, the small, weathered notebook resting beside him. His gaze drifted over the golden-furred puppy, who lay beside him with serene eyes and tail sweeping lazily across the boards. The bond between them was quiet, profound, and unshakable, built from days of shared observation, gentle guidance, and emotional discovery. Today, the world seemed wrapped in a soft hush, as if honoring the culmination of all the small journeys that had brought them here. The puppy nudged the man's hand lightly, a familiar gesture that now carried the weight of trust, loyalty, and understanding. The man smiled, brushing a hand along the puppy's back. "You've taught me more than I could have imagined," he whispered, voice soft and reflective. "About noticing, about feeling, about connecting." The puppy leaned into the touch, eyes half closed in quiet contentment. There was no urgency here, no expectation, just a presence so steady, so patient, that it seemed to carry the calm of every morning, every journey, every gentle step they had shared. The notebook lay open beside him, pages still soft and worn, filled with the quiet reflections of a life once lived. And now, those reflections were no longer just memories, they were a bridge. A connection between past and present, between human and animal, between heart and instinct. The man exhaled slowly, letting the warmth of the golden light seep into him. Each day of watching, following, and learning from the puppy had led him to this place, understanding, clarity, and a deep emotional resonance that he had never known before. The puppy rose slowly, stretching with calm precision. He wandered a few steps, then paused, glancing back with those bright, knowing eyes. The man followed, feeling the gentle pull of intuition that had guided them together from the very beginning. Every movement carried a message, subtle and unspoken, reminding the man that connection is often expressed in small gestures, quiet glances, and patient companionship. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky in shades of rose and amber, the man knelt beside the puppy, brushing his hand through the golden fur one last time before evening fully settled in. He realized that the emotional journey they had shared was a gift, a lesson in presence, trust, and the extraordinary ways in which love can be communicated without words. He looked down at the puppy, eyes glistening. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" he murmured. The puppy nudged his hand gently, tail wagging slowly, and rested his head lightly against the man's knee. In that quiet, shared moment, the man understood the full circle of their journey. Curiosity had led to connection, connection had led to discovery, and discovery had led to healing. The warm evening light wrapped around them, soft and tender, as if sealing the lessons of the day in a golden embrace. He felt a profound sense of gratitude, not only for the revelations of the notebook, but for the puppy's unwavering intuition, patience, and gentle guidance. The man allowed himself to linger, taking in the moment fully. He noticed the way the sunlight caught the puppy's fur, the faint hum of distant life in the neighborhood, the subtle scent of earth and flowers. Everything felt alive, meaningful, and infinitely precious. He realized that life often whispers its most beautiful truths in the quietest ways, through small acts of loyalty, subtle gestures of intuition, and moments of shared presence. The puppy had shown him this, leading him gently toward understanding, love, and emotional clarity. The man leaned back against the porch railing, closing his eyes briefly. The puppy rested at his feet, breathing softly, tail still sweeping lazily. The world felt full, warm, and complete. Every small journey, every pause, every nudge and glance had brought him here, to a place of connection, reflection, and quiet joy. As the sky deepened into soft shades of twilight, the man spoke softly, almost to himself, "Thank you, for showing me the way." The puppy responded with a gentle, contented sigh, head resting against the man's leg. The neighborhood was quiet now, the world bathed in the soft embrace of evening. And in that quiet, tender moment, the man understood fully, the puppy's daily runs, his gentle intuition, and the quiet guidance had not only revealed a hidden story, they had healed something inside him. The journey had reached its gentle conclusion, a bond of trust, love, and understanding that would last a lifetime. The man smiled through tears of quiet joy, brushing his hand one last time along the golden fur. The puppy looked up, eyes shining with calm satisfaction. Together, they sat in warm, fading light, a perfect moment of closure, connection, and heartfelt peace. And in the soft twilight, the man knew this truth: life's most meaningful lessons often come on quiet pause, guided by intuition, and revealed through love.